তাহলে তুমি দেখবে এই বিচিটা হয়েছিল অটোতে।
I hope I'm audible.
You are.
Yes, I think we should start.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes. So, I think without much ado, we've hit that 5-minute mark. So without much ado, let's start. So for all who are here, we are really lucky to have Ajit here. And the only thing is that the talk will not be a 1-hour one. It will be over at 6:20 because Ajit will soon be joining in for a live interview with NDTV in English initially at 6:30 and 7 p.m. IST at with NDTV India, which is the Hindi version of it. So I think there is a lot happening. Ajit is in heavy demand. Thanks so much. You could pull out some time for us.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you very much for having me here.
Okay. So two things. Say like Ajit, you started your career with credence analytics, right?
Frankly, I had forgotten. That was 1993. So you have pulled up my history pretty well, but I guess LinkedIn
Okay.
is there. Thank
So
you very
Vivek
much.
is a dear friend.
Oh, Vivek Sinha. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And in fact, me and Sushant were consulting Vivek, or rather, we consulted say credence analytics, and we had built a business plan for them. That was somewhere in 2001, 2002. I mean, so I think there are some say common connections. So I just thought I will let you know of that. I am known to pull out such things, in the talks. So yes, and so the other connection is that Sushanto was the CEO of Sign, and then when he moved away, you had taken the charge.
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I mean that got you into the. So you've always been on the helm of the technologies, at the top of the what are the new technologies, and what I see is that there are more than 20 companies, more than a score of companies that you are advisors to, which are largely around the Web3 kind of areas. Am I correct on that?
You are right that there are 22 companies in the Web3 space that I advise, but that is since just 2020. Prior to that, there were much larger number. What I have done is I have not listed them on my LinkedIn because that seems like old news.
I'm sure.
But I have done that also, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yes, one quick question: when, and why did you get into the blockchain, decentralize this thing, Web3, or say whatever we call it? And what was the genesis of ZepPay? I'm sure you got into it far earlier. I would request everyone else to mute themselves. We will do a quick talk for probably 15-20 minutes, and then we'll open it for the audience. We are short of time, so please, 6:20 is our last thing with Ajit, because then he has to go live on NDTV.
Nice.
Okay.
So very simply, first of all, a lot of people mistakenly assume that I'm the founder. That's not the case. I joined ZepPay when it was 3.5 years old as CEO. Usually CEOs of startups tend to also be the founders, so that is why the misconception. But there are two trigger points for me to get attracted to crypto. One happened far before even, I guess, Satoshi Nakamoto imagined a Bitcoin. And that is where I was always interested in the new thing, like the newest game, the newest, and even as a kid, the newest game, the newest movie, the newest whatever. And as I grew up, I became an interest in the newest technology as well as the newest investment opportunity. So there was a genesis of that right since childhood. But having worked for IIT Bombay as a CEO of their business incubator, then for a VC firm from Hong Kong Capital, I really saw both sides of tech and finance, that is investment. And frankly, the blockchain-based digital assets are at this point, in my opinion, the best combination of those two, namely financial innovation.
Sorry, I missed you on that.
So basically, I got in September of 2016, and
Okay.
months later, people would have thought that I got in because of demonetization. I'm glad I got in 2 months before anybody knew that was going to happen.
Ah, okay. So yes, 2016 and now, I mean, 6 years, great journey. Lots of ups and downs. I think what I've seen in the 25 years of my startup ups and downs, I'm sure you've seen those, but for the Web3 or the crypto or say this world, these 6 years have encompassed all of that, and and more, I think, right? Because like it's like, am I right on
So,
that?
yeah, you're right. So for example, if you look at built in the 80s and the 90s and very famous businesses, whether it is Bharti Airtel, whether it's Infosys, etc., they took like 10 years to reach some level. We know that the Infosys IPO was not even fully subscribed.
True.
Then came the Web3 companies, which are becoming very big in like time frames, just 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. So yeah, things go faster and faster.
Yeah. I mean, so yes. So 2016, you started your journey into this world, and Web3 was just about evolving at that time. Blockchain was coming into play, and then you had, I mean, so your the cryptocurrencies, as they're called, they were coming into a lot more into mainstream than they had been ever earlier, right?
To the best of my knowledge, we were not even Web3 then. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum, etc., did exist for 5, 6, 7, 8 years prior to that. But yeah,
Right.
are you
The
facing
PMF
any?
happened
That's
2017
correct.
onward, 2018 onward, as we
That is
call it,
correct.
So for the audience, PMF, if you don't know, PMF is the product market fit. So like Uber, maps were there, taxis were there, but Uber got its product market fit when smartphones had maps on them and you had your location that you could share. So Uber's PMF moment was when phones started having maps and sharing of location features. So what was the similar kind of thing uh, in the crypto side or the blockchain side? What do you think was the wow moment when everyone started really looking at it?
So 2 or 3, like for example, what got me attracted to crypto in 2014, though I purchased my first Bitcoin in 2016, but what got me first interested 2 years prior to that was the crazy price movement and the fact that some people were believing at that point that Bitcoin was the future of literally everything. As in everything, just like in the 1994 period, we thought that internet was the future of everything. That people will eat internet, sleep internet, drink internet, live on the internet, there'll be nothing else. So similar, 20 years after that, in 2014, I experienced that. So I was like, really, let me just find out, because there were a lot of naysayers for the internet in 1994, and eventually it did become very powerful. So am I being narrow-minded? However, when I explored crypto for 5 minutes in 2014, I found it to be completely absurd and rather stupid. And I just said, this is complete nonsense. Doesn't make any sense. This can't go on. So I rejected it in 2014, kept flirting with it for the next 2 years. And in September 2016, I put 1,000 rupees into a small fraction of a Bitcoin, which was priced at around 40,000 rupees at that point of time.
And वो 40,000 अभी कितना हो गया? If I may ask, sorry for changing to Hindi, but yes,
yeah, no,
हम
so it's like
हिंदुस्तानी हैं तो.
There is $21,000, so that will be something like 15 lakh rupees approximately.
Okay,
16
not
lakhs,
bad, not
something
bad.
like that.
Okay, I've done something close in the startup world, wherein 17,500 bucks became 45 lakhs in four and a half years.
You win. You win.
Okay, so yes, now that journey and now, today we are at a point, wherein Elon Musk is trying to say, Web3 is a gimmick. What would you say to that?
So
It's a
thing is,
buzzword. He's saying it's a buzzword. It's a marketing gimmick. I mean,
so
there's a
I
tweet
think,
of his, right?
so by the way, there was a tweet 1 year before that where he seemed to be greatly supporting it. Same with Jack Dorsey of Twitter. I think that the intention of Web3 and its reality on the ground are very different. By very different, I mean that while Web3 talks about decentralization, you own your identity, you own your everything, your data, etc. And that is the dream, or that is the outcome that technology can support. But the fact is that if you look at the implementations or the apps or what is really happening on the ground, we are very far away from that. So it is a little, I would say, and I don't say this with any pride, but Web3 is a little like religion. Namely, if you read the religious texts and what they say, all religions are great. But when you look at them on ground and see what these practitioners of the religions do, frankly, it is very distasteful, and you don't like religion too much when you see the followers of the religion. Web3 is exactly like that, that in principle, it is absolutely fabulous, but in practice, it leaves a lot to be desired. So I agree with both points of view. However, unlike religion, I think that Web3, pretty much like a lot of other technological innovations, whether they are e-commerce, social media, and the like, I think will keep getting better and better. Initially, it did not seem so, but like now, a lot of those things are getting better. I think the direction is right.
Okay. So with that, we have one question which many have, and even I have for that matter. I mean, I've read a lot, but Web3 and Web 3.0. In fact, initially I was making the post when I was working on the creative for today's talk. We actually wrote, Web 3.000. And I mean, you say immediately corrected me that, hey, it is Web3 that we talk about more. So what is Web3 and how is it different from Web 3.0?
So first of all, even if you take them as the same, while you are technically wrong, I think it's okay. Like a lot of people refer to Web3 as Web 3.0, and there is no reason to be too hung up about it, except technologically, Web 3.0 is about the semantic web. It has nothing to do with blockchain. It has nothing to do with decentralization of all the other things that the Web3 people talk about. Web 3.0 is a very interesting concept in computer science, where, for example, the entire internet becomes one living being. So suppose you have some data, I have some data. Why should both servers be hosting the same data? Why not have one data which is then shared with others? And this is a very resource efficient way of the internet, has nothing to do with cryptocurrency, blockchain, decentralization, etc. Web3, however, is about all of those things. So you know what, I would strongly recommend that what I just said in the last 100 seconds, please forget that, because it's not important. It's just nomenclature. But since you asked me the question, I don't want to appear to be ignorant.
Okay. Okay. So I think, Sanjeev, you got an answer to that, I think. So Web3 is all about, you're talking blockchain, you're talking decentralized web, you're talking cryptocurrencies, which is a use case of blockchains. NFT is another use case of a blockchain, wherein, I mean, hey, so like you have a caricature of, say, Ajit Khurana, that could actually become an NFT, a non-fungible token, and wherein, he says that only 100 of these will go out to my fans. Okay, I'm sure you have a lot of fan following in the this thing, and then people can actually trade it and get money out of that. I mean, I've seen ventures wherein one IPL player, uska there was a drop going to be on 1 crore ka drop initial. I won't name the guy, but I mean, that's the kind of numbers that are being talked about. So,
so actually, if you don't mind, I actually don't agree with that. I must tell you. So the thing is, when we think of NFTs, and suddenly, for those of you who may have heard about it, there are these monkey-faced NFTs called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And you gave the example of the IPL player, where, by the way, you are completely right. But those tend to be exceptions. What I want to throw out, since you have brought up the topic of NFTs, I must point out that suppose I go to watch a movie, and I go to the movie counter first, the ticket counter, and I buy a ticket for, let's say, 300 rupees. And you meet me at the mall where I have gone, and you ask me, hey, what are you doing? So I'm like, I'm buying a movie ticket. And he says, what did you just buy? So I show you this piece of paper. And I said, this is the ticket I bought for 300 rupees. And he's like, you bought this piece of paper for 300 rupees? I think it should not cost more than 10 paisa because it's just a small piece of paper. So if I forget the fact that this paper has no value, but this paper represents my opportunity to go and watch a movie, and I attribute those 300 rupees to this piece of paper, actually it's an absurd situation. But if I say that this piece of paper by itself may not have any value, but allows me to watch a movie, then the 300 may seem reasonable. What I'm getting at is, for example, a lot of NFTs, because an NFT is a digital asset. How do you represent it? Most easy way to represent it is using an image. So for example, when you said you could have a caricature of Ajit Khurana, which you could sell to 100 people, true. But are people buying that caricature, or are they attaching some value to that caricature? Because you can just right click that caricature and say save image as. If I have that image, now you have that image. So how is the value different? True. The value might be different because this NFT, let's call it the Ajit NFT, and I may sometime issue it, you never know, might probably
I'm there in line first.
Yeah, might probably be the entry to, let us say, a weekly conversation with me, might lead to probably meeting me physically on a one-on-one, etc. So that image per se is not what you paid for. That image is just the ticket of the movie. The movie, as they say, picture abhi baki hai. So I think there are a lot of people mistake, as in when they'll ask me, are you serious? Did somebody pay $500,000 for that photo? And I'm like, yes, they did, but they didn't really pay for the photo, but what comes with the photo.
Comes along with it.
In some cases, it might be the photo itself that is valuable. That also I have to agree, right? But largely NFTs are not that.
Exactly. So it is the facilities you get along with. It's the same thing. I'm like, so a paper with 2,000 written on it, and Bharat, so Reserve Bank written on it, Bharatiya Reserve Bank written on it. By itself, it doesn't mean anything, but people have faith in it that it represents. You can buy anything worth 2,000 rupees for it. Same ways as the, say, like NFT, and similarly, you have the crypto also. I have a hypothesis. Can I check with you? Although it's slightly off topic. Okay.
Yes.
There was a time when Mr. Musk was, deeply entrenched in, was cryptocurrency is the way to go, right? And he would name something and it would shoot up and get into $1 billion valuation or something like that, right? Now, in some ways, was he banking on that wealth to buy Twitter?
Okay, so see, you please, first of all, we can ask Mr. Musk that. I hope he will come on one of these Wise Talks. However, having said that, because I'll give you an example of the first time he said that, Tesla has purchased $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin as an example. And you are right that upon that tweet, the price of Bitcoin went up 10%. Now, a lot of people who are familiar with the world of finance, investment, stocks, etc., but they are frankly very skeptical of the cryptocurrency world, said that what sort of an asset is this? That one person puts like a tweet and that can change the global pricing of the asset by 10%. So clearly, this is not something that is either mature or something that should be taken seriously and is a fringe activity. If you look at this, it seems very logical. However, because I was on the other side, namely, I myself thought that the very fact that this announcement has come in should actually reprice Bitcoin at a much, much higher price than it is now. Whether that much price is higher is 5% or 25% is debatable. So how do I defend my position? That how can one person saying something make such a big difference? Especially because if he says that about Tesla share prices, then we understand that he is the CEO. He should not be saying it. But if he does that, then we can take his word for it. So in reality, if you see the composition of ownership of digital assets, and you move back a few years to when he said that, I think he probably did that in 2019. And in 2000, by the way, shortly thereafter, he reversed his stand also. It was almost entirely retail investor. In India, almost 100% retail investor, and globally also well over 99% retail. And we knew that when that changes, when pension funds and sovereign funds and institutional money and corporate treasuries start taking an exposure to cryptocurrency, if and when that day comes, then a lot of the stock could get dried up, and because of demand supply, if demand increases, supply doesn't, then the price should go up. Because Tesla was one of the earliest people to announce this, a lot of people, such as myself, thought that this was now the first trickle of what will turn out to be a tsunami. Namely, Tesla being a more cowboy corporation probably is buying crypto first. Maybe hundreds and thousands of corporations will buy eventually. By the way, it turned out to be untrue. But I'm just saying, see, we can't predict the future. So at that point, it seemed like, oh, MicroStrategy was already doing it. Now Tesla is doing it. So maybe many other companies will do it. So it was reasonable to assume that if this is the beginning of a trend, the price of Bitcoin could go up. So I don't think it was the tweet that raised the price. It was the fact that the tweet represented a potential trend which could easily double the price of Bitcoin. It did not come true.
Okay. So that's for the pricing strategies. And yes, I will go now a step further into like the way we talk about startups, right? You've seen cycles, I've seen cycles. The worst of the times when the stock markets are really down, I have found those to create some of the best startup companies and a very good time to invest into the right kind of teams of the founders. Would you say the same relates to cryptocurrencies or digital assets? I mean, is now a good time to get into it, because they've been down. A lot of people, so to say, have lost their money because they've come in at the fag end of the thing, and now, I mean, there were currencies that got wiped out again because it's a closed-knit environment. You got people, very high demand, supply is there, and when the demand dries up, then nothing is left. What you're holding in hand is like sand, and it all passes through your hand.
Yeah. So the answer is yes as well as no. Unfortunately, there's no clear answer. I'll tell you, but I can tell you why it is yes and why it is no. If you look at the two most recent bull markets of crypto, one was the 2017 bull market, which took the Bitcoin price up to 20,000, after which it fell to 3,000, which is an 85% retracement. And then we saw the more recent bull market, which was the 2021 bull market, which took the price of Bitcoin up from close to around $8,000 to $69,000, and now back to 21, which is about a 70% retracement. And because the previous three bear markets have had almost precisely 85% retracement to the peak, a lot of people feel that the fourth time will be the same because they believe in charts, and that would mean that the Bitcoin would price fall to 10,500. Having said that, to answer your question from the startup point of view, one of the things that the 2017 bull market did is, pardon my French, but I call that the era of the scam coin, where a lot of people around the world would have a slogan like, hey, you know what, Bitcoin is now so expensive. It is 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, because 2017 saw all of those prices. But here is a better coin, which costs 1 cent or 10 cents or $1. And this is the Bitcoin of tomorrow. And when people would say, you know what, that means I could buy for 1 cent and it could become $10,000, which is like a million-fold increase. That means I put $1, it will become $1 million. A lot of people fell for that, and a lot of scam tokens came up. And this also led to the bear market in crypto, which, by the way, was not correlated with the bear market in other markets. It was not as if the token or every asset in the world fell. If you look at the 2021 bull market, while I'm sure there must have been scams also, but it was not the bull market based on scam coin. And this is where my French comes in, that this was the era of the shit coin. The difference is that a scam coin is basically somebody who is preying upon the ignorance and is intentionally doing a fraud. A shitcoin, however, is a startup. For example, today, if you get startup pitches which are basically saying, I'm going to do exactly what Zomato does, or exactly what Amazon, or exactly what Flipkart does, and they have no basis for it, there is no strength, there is no technology, there is no differentiator, there is no fundraising, there is no traction, you would say, there's nothing wrong with an e-commerce business. But what are you saying? You guys have nothing, and you are saying you will take on a Reliance or an Amazon or an Apple or something like that. So these sort of undifferentiated, relatively poor business model tokens came up in the 2020, 21 and early 22 period. These did well for some time, but because the market became a little weak, which means 69,000 went to like 50,000. The economics couldn't support it because the economics were assuming an eternal bull market. So they started failing. This led to the cascading fall that, coupled with certain global economic problems and liquidity, with interest rates rising and liquidity being sucked out of the market, led for all of these bull market only projects to fail. So now my short answer to your question of whether is the fallen market a good time to enter, the short answer is very simple. What was without any value, underlying value, productivity value, profit value in the bull market continues to be of no value even in the bear market. So if suppose something was $100 and has now become $1, it was worth zero at 100 and it was zero even at $1. So you're paying very high even at $1. However, there are many investment opportunities. By many, regrettably, I must say that many is probably 2 to 5%. The remaining 95 to 98% are actually not there. I would, much to the displeasure of some of my industry companions, I would say it is garbage. But these 2 to 5% have proven to be valuable. They also tend to be the blue chip, like the equivalent of the HDFC Bank and Larsen and Toubro of the stock market. There are equivalents in this, which I would call the blue chips, which have fallen, but not that much. By the way, they have fallen 60-70%, which in crypto is not that much, which I think do present very interesting purchase opportunities. So long story short, yes, this might be an interesting time to buy, though it could halve even from here. But please, at least make sure you're buying a company which can survive a 2-3 year bear market. And then I think you're doing good.
So look at the fundamentals and then get in. Look at the
so here's the
teams.
thing. No, I would actually make it a little easier. I think that the shitcoin era of 2021 and 22 actually had good fundamentals. The technology was good, the use case was good. The problem was they were not able to get customer acquisition, which we call adoption. So the business plan was good, the economics were good, but they just could not get adoption. So what good is the world's greatest computer game if nobody is going to play it, the equivalent of that? So I'm saying that I would say today, since you have the luxury of buying digital assets, as is the case with the stock market also at relatively lower price, look at those who are already on the right path. That means don't just look at potential, look at track record also. Look at how many users there are, look at how much revenue there is, look at how much profit there is, look at how many transactions, look at the growth. You didn't have the luxury of doing this, let's say 5 months ago, when there was a raging bull market where the multiples were ridiculous. So yes, if those are the fundamentals you're talking about, I agree.
Okay. So this is on the crypto side, how we go about it. We need to do our study as we do in the startup side and other things. Now, tell me, would this also be encompassing metaverse? Since
so the way I would like to give a little perspective to this is that right at the top is Web3.
Right.
Under Web3, on one side come the various technologies. The most famous one is blockchain, then there is Hyperledger, etc., etc. There are various technologies that can enable Web3, blockchain being the most popular. And then there are industries or use cases under them. Metaverse definitely is one of the most upcoming, strongest upcoming use of Web3. But for example, the world's biggest metaverse, at least for the timing, is going to be Meta, which is the new name of Facebook. And Meta as a metaverse is not Web3. It is a completely centralized structure, completely owned by our friends Mark Zuckerberg, etc. So metaverse, like e-commerce, like social media, can be done in a Web3 way as well as can be done in a non-Web3 way. So ultimately, it is just a use case. It can be done in any way.
Okay. So so what would you say about use cases like, people are looking at creating 3D variants of your avatars or the clothing that you're going to be wearing. And like we just saw a company, which is actually making 3D avatars for their clients. No, sorry, 3D avatars for the clients of the brands that they're working with. So the customers, unke liye. And what they're also doing is that they are giving them that the dress that these people buy, they get the digital equivalent to be used in a metaverse, or I think going forward, it could be used in a game also if there is a say connection with a gaming company like say Unity or something of that sort. What would you say for such things, which are looking at using the avatars in the metaverse? I think I lost you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I got disconnected, but I heard your question about the company which is doing dress and also giving you a digital version of the dress.
Right.
So one of my favorite comic books is Calvin and Hobbes, that kid with his tiger stuffed toy. And within that, there was one comic slide where he's walking around very proudly and saying, and the last screen of that says, what use is it wearing my favorite rocket underwear if nobody is going to see it and compliment me on it, because he's wearing it inside his shorts. So what I'm trying to get at is that let us just try to very oversimplistically say what is the metaverse. I think that most people who are on this call would agree that if we were to combine social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, I'll include YouTube and TikTok also in it for a broader definition. And second, we include messengers such as WhatsApp and Telegram or whatever else. And then we include video conferencing such as this Zoom session or Google Meets or whatever. And I try to find out how much time do the people on this call, in this session, spend on all these things put together, right? I think that mostly it would be a few hours. And if you are still younger, probably it might be even 8-9 hours in a day that you spend on the combination of these three things. So at the bare minimum, the metaverse is the combination of all of these. That means your conferencing, your social interaction, and your messaging is clearly going to be done better using the metaverse, which is why Facebook has also renamed itself Meta. Now, how will people behave on the metaverse? For example, right now, there could be somebody who gets the idea that if people are so keen to buy digital outfits for their online avatar, then maybe they will be keen to do that even on the Zoom call. So Ajit is wearing a black shirt, but maybe if I gave him a better shirt, he might pay me 1 rupee to use that as a shirt in this Zoom call, and maybe I will. Maybe the background could be sold. There could be a free background, etc. So I think that whether customers are willing to buy or not is a completely separate how will the market evolve kind of thing. Just like in the early stages, we said people will not buy outfits online. They will buy books. Now people are buying outfits also. So that I don't want to predict. But as a use case, I think metaverse as a substitute for most of the things we do online today, whether it is entertainment, which is Netflix, WhatsApp, Zoom, Twitter, Facebook. I think these in their current model are easy to move to the metaverse and with far greater reward. Than we currently do it. So I think that that's a very good area. Now, whether selling apparel online will work or whether selling land online will work, whether offering edutech on the metaverse will work, let us see. That is based on innovation and customers' willingness to adapt.
Okay. So as long as you have a monetization model till such time as people start using the metaverse the way we are talking about. I'm like, we are already there. You have got things in AR, VR that are happening. And yes, so I think there are some questions. Someone asked how to get adaptation of metaverse by people.
I think he might have meant adoption, but that is fine. So the thing is,
I think it's
correct.
It's adoption.
So,
I think that will come. So that PMF is yet to happen, I think. We are just waiting around the corner.
Here is the thing. There have been some metaverse-like things going on for many years more than we were using the word metaverse. Like all of these games where you go inside the game, you begin engaging with a lot of things. Those are, I think, the earliest versions of the metaverse, and they have been around for years. So yeah, I think that slowly, just like we adopted to social media, etc., these things will also happen.
Okay. And what type of startups are there in the Web3 space?
So actually, all the startups or industries that exist in the non-Web3 space, whether it is edutech, whether it is gaming, whether it is banking, lending, all of them exist. However, the two sectors that have taken off the most, for example, there is e-commerce also in Web3, which has not taken off. The two sectors that have taken on the most are, one is decentralized finance which means things that banks do, things that mutual funds do, things that PayPal does, things that venture capitalists do, etc. This has lent itself very beautifully and has got adopted. Like the TVL, the total value locked, is now running into well over hundreds of billions. Value locked, for example, is if you look at all the money that all deposit holders own in HDFC bank accounts, we will call it the total value locked. So if you look at the total value locked, it is running into hundreds of billions of dollars presently. So that is the one area that has got adopted. And the second area that has got adopted is a microscopic area within social networking, which is more like community formation. And this is where the emergence of NFTs have come in to create the communities, which people wrongly think is coming from the pictures that are being sold. These are the two that have got huge adoption. By huge adoption, I mean the total number of people in DeFi today in the world is more than 10 million. Now, I know 10 million is a small number, but at least it's compared to the traditional, actually, I'm sorry, it's not 10 million, it is 100 million. So even that is a small number compared to people who participate in traditional finance. But these two have really grown all the other things, whether it is decentralized social media, decentralized e-commerce, decentralized Uber, Ola, all of those technologies exist, but they have not got adopted yet.
So, I think just one second.
Can I just answer? There's a question. There's one question I can see Karan Kampani saying, is there any intrinsic value to NFTs, or would it be appropriate to say it's a bubble? Here is the thing. I'm not here to defend bubbles or non-intrinsic values. The fact is that there is a lot of digital asset out there which does not have intrinsic value. It's a fact. Now, whether those things are bubbles, hype, fad, whatever negative word you use, you will be right. However, there is no asset class such as to say NFT has no intrinsic value is completely incorrect. I'll give you an example. So what I do is at the end of this session, I announce to the people in this course that I am going to release an NFT. We will call it the Ajit is so good looking NFT. Sorry, I'm just using this opportunity to say that. And by buying that picture of mine, which will just be a screenshot of what you're looking at right now, what you get to do is that you get to attend 10 of my next sessions. Maybe somebody will think there is a worth to it. Maybe they'll pay 1 rupee, maybe they'll pay 1,000 rupee, maybe they'll pay, well, I could keep going. So here, what I did is I created an NFT which had the underlying value of being able to, that anybody who owns that NFT and you could transfer it to somebody else's wallet gets to attend some sessions of mine, and maybe there is value. If the value is in the eye of the beholder. So I think that ultimately NFT is literally a ticket. Now, a ticket to what? And what is the value of that really is what is the utility of that NFT. For example, I am associated with 1 or 2 NFT projects which are in the area of getting women rescued from a very politically stressful situation around the world and rehabilitating them in other places, including getting them a job and all of that. Now, it is impossible to say there is no intrinsic value to that, and people are buying those NFTs. There have been communities created around that. So what I would recommend is that, just to oversimplify this, think of an NFT as a ticket. So don't judge the ticket. Judge what the ticket is.
Judge what the ticket is made for doing. What it allows you to do.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So like say charities, people say donate to charities just because. So like say today, if I start a charity that, hey, I'm like, this is for the so say the downtrodden or something like that. You come for this dinner, for this gala dinner, and your entry ticket is worth $10,000. So there will be people who will come for that. Now, that dinner was not worth $10,000. It was worth probably some like $200 or maybe $100. But there are people who pay for that. And I think I'm on the right track, right?
If you don't mind, Manish, here's what we're going to do. Ankit Arora has asked 2 very interesting questions, which are
please do that.
Very interesting. But also, if you don't mind, because I have only 7 minutes, and since it's a live show on NDTV, they get very nervous if you don't show up sometime before. So I would actually, there are some things that I have not talked about. I would like to talk about those. So next 7 minutes, or 6 minutes, I'll just take over. So here's the thing. Paytm had a IPO at, I think, close to around 2,100 rupees or some price, and it fell down to 1/4 of that price, and then today is probably at 1/3 of that price. This does not in any way indicate whether people have started using the Paytm app less or more, whether more merchants are accepting Paytm or less merchants are accepting Paytm. This information is not available from the share price of Paytm. So the share price of Paytm goes to 20,000 does not mean that more people are accepting it. So sometimes we get mixed between these two things. We feel that because the price of some metaverses is falling or token is falling, that its use case is also falling. That's not the case. Likewise, if the price is going up, does not mean adoption is going up. It is the estimate of the investor whether adoption will go up or down, which causes the price to go up or down. The people who are using Paytm are not saying, oh, today price of Paytm has gone up, so I will use Paytm app. So that is one thought. Second thing, from the investment point of view, which is the one very, very important thing I wanted to tell before I go, and that is why I requested Manish ji to, let me say one very interesting thing. I don't know what are the ages of the people on this call, but so I'm 52. I have seen at least 5 or 6 very vibrant sectors grow in the last 30 years. I wouldn't say internet because internet really is an enabling technology, not a sector, but let us say e-commerce has really grown, as in from literally zero to very large numbers. Let us say mobile devices, mobile internet, let us say social media, messaging. You could even say gaming or mobile gaming. These are all sectors which in their best decade, 10-year period, have increased 1,000-fold, not 1,000%, 1,000 times.
1,000 times.
Right? Yeah, 1,000 times in a 10-year period. And if that is the case, we have to evaluate, because now, now will e-commerce grow 1,000 times in the next decade? Well, I don't want to make any predictions, but now it seems very difficult to grow 1,000 times from here. So we all are looking for what is the next sector that will become 1,000 times. We made some right judgments with social media, mobile gaming, etc. We made some wrong judgments with wearable technology and drones, which also grew a lot, but not as much as we had expected. My belief is, and you don't have to believe this, but I'm just giving you my hypothesis. My belief is that Web3 is ripe for, as in we have already started that decade where it is going to grow up 1,000-fold. One very interesting statistic I give people is that if you look at the daily average users of Facebook, it is around 2.5 billion, plus or minus a little. It goes up to 3 billion, also goes down to 2 billion also. So 2.5 billion daily active users on Facebook. If you look at, however, Web3 apps, and I mean all Web3 apps, not Facebook, all Web3 apps across all blockchains, the number is only a little above 2 million with an M. That means Facebook alone is 1,000 times bigger than all of Web3 put together. Either Web3 will disappear, evaporate, become, a lot of people are skeptical, their views will come true, or my views will come true and Web3 will get adopted. And probably this 2 million will become 2 billion in no time, probably even greater. If that is the case, then there is a 1,000x growth possibility in this sector, which means the greatest wealth building opportunity will occur here. However, caveat is that just because e-commerce grew 1,000-fold or social media grew 1,000-fold doesn't mean all companies in e-commerce grew 1,000-fold or all companies social media. Not at all. In fact, most companies in e-commerce died, most companies in social media died, and the same is necessarily going to happen in what is clearly a winner-takes-all situation in Web3. So I think that if you're looking for an investment opportunity, some investment opportunities in Web3 are going to become 1,000x in 10 years. Most others are going down to zero. So it might be good to start building your skill set in this area.
Thank you so much. I think we don't have much time. You want to take any of the questions and the
Yes. Actually, I think that Nikhil Pava's question about the fact that navigation or using is very difficult, and Ankit's question that, the MetaMask and all this, absolutely, this is horrible. As in, if, for example, you go and buy shares of a company, you go and buy shares of Procter & Gamble, you just click, and it is done. You don't bother about where is the share sold, what is the hardware wallet, what is the custody situation. It's literally everything happens automatically. But in crypto, you have to worry. Like, for example, in my lifetime, me, the supposed expert in crypto, I have lost more than 9 full Bitcoin in my life. And by the way, I did not lose them because I was careless. I literally lost them because I was too careful. But that's a discussion for another day. I completely agree that the user experience in Web3, user experience in storage of digital assets is atrocious. I mean, it's horrible. On the one hand, the Web2 companies, their apps are working so hard. Web3 has done that to some extent, but the complete end-to-end circle is horrible in experience. Some parts are good, some parts are bad. And that is why the 1000x growth has still to come.
Got it. Okay. So Nikhil, any other question, or can we give him the much needed this thing? So I'll just sum it up. Thanks so much, Ajit, for such an eye-opener kind of a thing. And as is the case in startups, just because most startups will fail, you invest in startups and you create a bouquet of them, and maybe you will have a winner. And
I had one question, if I may.
yes, please, Nikhil, go ahead.
Hey,
Ajit,
Nikhil.
great to see you. I thought one question that might be useful for everyone on the call would be, as they say in a gold rush, invest in the shovels. I was just wondering where does one find the shovels in the Web3 space?
अभी थोड़ा हिंदी में पूछो प्लीज यार.
यार आप क्वेश्चन तो समझ गए हो ना?
Yeah. So the fact is this, that a lot, it's just like valuation, WeWork and Paytm and all of them, they get listed and then they get hammered. I think that we see this in every area, namely people over expect, and then they start getting into a gold rush mentality and they overvalue, and over time sanity sets in. Now it is a little difficult for me to say whether current numbers are sane or whether these are also too high, etc. So what I would recommend is that the precise numerical answer to your question can actually be seen by a like-to-like comparison. For instance, let's take Bitcoin. What should be the price?
I don't think you got my question, Ajit. My question was that
go ahead.
So when everyone's looking for gold, you should sell the tools. So what are the in the Web3 space, which are the tools, or what are the kind of tools where there's an opportunity when everyone's looking to buy crypto, the exchanges battle.
Who is going to buy the shovel and the pickaxe to dig the gold? Because that guy is surely making money. The one who is doing the gold rush will not necessarily make money. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, so here is the thing. I'm
so
going
yes,
to actually do something. No,
Reflexical could be a good bet.
Yes, I was about to say that, which is, so please everybody, if possible, forgive me for what I'm about to do. I never do it. But the question is so precise, as in the answer is so precise, that it would be dishonest of me not to tell you this. So on the one hand, you could try to be better at a gold rush, that others are doing the gold rush activity, they're digging for gold. I will do it better, but nobody does that. Everybody believes that they are smarter. The second is that you give somebody money and say, go dig gold for me, which means you outsource this, which also really, there is no reason to believe it will happen. And there's a third approach. And Manish, thanks for giving me that trigger, because I was very hesitant, because I never like to do any sort of self-promotion. But the fact is that I have set up a startup called Reflexical, and it is doing exactly that. Namely, it is the enabler, it is the pickaxe, it is the shovel. So the idea is that wherever gold will be found, my shovel will be used, my pickaxe will be used. So basically, environment plays, infra plays, ecosystem plays, which basically gain from the growth of the ecosystem, as opposed to the gain from the growth of a specific company, might be the pickaxe and the shovel of this ecosystem. Nikhil,
Great.
now I'm totally out of time. I'm now going to be on NDTV and NDTV in the next, right now and in the next half hour. If you want to continue listening to me, I don't know what we are talking about because it's a live show, so something will come up. Prashant, nice to see you. Thanks for turning on your camera.
Thank you for the talk, Ajit. I really appreciate taking out time for us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ajit.
Yeah, bye.
And I may have some more questions, which I will reach out to you later. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us across LinkedIn, across our phone numbers, or so Twitter. If you have anything, would be happy to get them answered for you. If you want to be part of this, this kind of Agility Wisetalk, wherein we talk about technology trends, say upcoming technologies, because these create opportunities for enhancing your wealth. So it would be great to have you with us. Please drop us a line, and we'll be sending out a mail to all the participants and who are there. If you want to be part of the subscription list, would be great to have you with us. And if you want to take part into investing into startups and finding, gems, finding the Amazons or the Googles, that the kind that we are looking at. So please drop us a line, and we'll be reaching out to you. So we'll be sending you some links. You can join some of the WhatsApp groups of ours, which are focused, say, interest areas kind of thing, and you can be part of us. And great to have you all with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.